Okay, welcome everyone to the September Union County Board of Education meeting. I would like to officially call this meeting to order, and we will begin with Reverend Vic Weaver to do our invocation.
Let's pray. Father God, we come to you tonight in the name that is above every name, the name of Jesus Christ, and we thank you for your continued blessings on us. And Father, we ask right now for your continued blessing while this storm rages off our coast and has a chance of actually affecting us. And we ask that you keep our buildings, our staff, our citizens safe. And we just ask now that you would continue to bless us with your overwhelming presence. And we're just going to praise you and continually thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you very much. And we're glad you're doing well, Reverend Weaver. Thank you. Good to have you here. We will now, if everyone would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We have Arian Shaw with us with Union County Early College.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Arian, what rank do I see on your shirt? Life rank. Good for you. I assume you're aiming for Eagle. You let us know when you reach that, okay? I have 2 Eagle Scouts. So good luck, and if you need anything, let us know. Okay. That's wonderful. Okay, board, we need to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, and we will move now to the John H. Crowder Service Award with Mrs. Sturdivant. If the board members would please join me at the front.
All right. Are y'all ready? The late John H. Crowder spent more than 30 years serving the children of Union County. As a living tribute to him and his legacy, the Union County Board of Education awards the John H. Crowder Service Award every month to an outstanding high school student who is making a difference in their school and community. Students who receive this award are not only academically successful, but also have an established history of community service. Tonight, we award the John H. Crowder Service Award to a very, very special student from Union County Early College, Laura Robledo. Did I say it? Robledo. Please come forward. You're here.
Yeah.
Laura is a positive influence everywhere she goes and works to make a difference for herself, as well as those around her. In addition to being a member of the National Honor Society and National Society of Leadership and Success, Laura serves as Student Government Association President for all South Piedmont Community College campuses, as well as Vice President for the North Carolina Comprehensive Community College Student Government Association. You're doing a lot. She is completing both high school honors courses and an entire program of dual enrollment courses, and will earn both her high school diploma and associate's degree in 2020. Laura's interest in the medical field and in helping people around the world led her to start the Smile Club at her school. This club works to raise money for children who have a cleft lip or palate and are in need of a very special surgery, but do not have money for this operation. This year, the Smile Club raised enough money to support 4 surgeries for children who otherwise would not have received this life-changing operation. Additionally, Laura has completed an internship at Novant Health Matthews and spends one-on-one time mentoring students at the Boys and Girls Club. After graduation, Laura plans to enlist in the United States Air Force. That's cool. And we're not finished. She plans to continue studying biology and aspires to work in the field of orthopedics. Laura epitomizes leadership both at school and in her community, and the Board of Education is very, very proud to recognize her as the September recipient of the John H. Crowder Service Award. We're so proud of you.
Thank you.
What an amazing student. Love hearing these stories. Okay, I do not think we have any public comments tonight, so we'll move on to approving the open session meeting minutes from August 6th and August 14th.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that brings us to the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and we'll turn it over to Dr. Houlihan for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Ms. Merrill. Let me begin this evening by saying a few words to our colleagues in counties on the East Coast of North Carolina this week and what our state is once again going through with Hurricane Dorian. We wanted to let all of our colleagues and counterparts know that Team UCPS stands ready to help you if you need anything. I have reached out to the superintendent in New Hanover County in particular to offer any assistance that might need it. And we want you to know that We're thinking of you and hoping that your school systems and families and students are not impacted by this storm. I want to commend our staff today and thank our Union County Emergency Management for really a job well done helping us monitor the situation. We felt like today was a very smooth day given the weather conditions and really saw very little impact here. So to our students, thank you for not giving me as much Twitter hate this time. Appreciate that. And tomorrow's gonna be a beautiful day. So I just wanted to say thank you and to our colleagues on the East Coast that we are thinking of you. I also want to say welcome back. We are wrapping up our second week of school. It has been a phenomenal start to the school year. I've had the chance to visit a significant amount of schools, at least 1 or 2 schools in every cluster. Teachers are prepared, kids are learning, they're engaged. It is almost like we haven't even stopped for summer. It's just kind of like we've just keep the ball rolling. I want to say a big thank you to our HR teams and our facility staff. Our buildings look great. Our grounds look tremendous as well. And our HR staff has done a really good job hiring our teachers for this coming year. So thank you. September is Attendance Awareness Month, and this is the time to talk about the importance of staying in school, coming to school every day on time. We really need to continue to push this message to our families. You're going to see more messages about this Awareness Month on our website and social media, but we want to say thank you to our parents for partnering with us to get your child to school every day on time. Also this month, we are going to join districts across the country in celebrating Start with Hello Week. That week is going to be September 23rd through the 27th. This effort is being led by our Student Support Services Department. This is a really big push to let our students know how to make a difference with their peers in a simple, fun, and impactful way by encouraging them to take small but really powerful steps around social inclusion and to identify and help others that might be in need, who might be showing signs of social isolation. You're going to see more information to come. We met with all of our principals today about this. Every school is expected to participate in this initiative, and we're excited to be a premier county really promoting social emotional learning and peer-to-peer assistance. So we look forward to that at the end of the month. And finally, tonight, our accountability report will be provided to the public and to the board. We are very excited, as you're going to hear in a few minutes, to showcase the efforts that were made this past school year in all stages and facets of our academic performance. Just to give you a little bit of a teaser, this year the state, because of changes to ESSA and other accountability measures, there are 51 indicators that the state rates all schools and school systems on. Once again, UCPS is leading the way. 44 of the 51 we rank first in the state, particularly amongst the big 12 counties in the state. So we are very, very pleased with our success from last year, and I won't steal the thunder of our colleagues, so I'll leave the rest of that to Dr. Breedlove and Dr. Tyson Bowers. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Houlihan. Okay, we look forward to that. And we will now have the strategic plan update, theme C, initiative 1 with Jared McCraw and Tracy Strickland.
Good evening, board members. Tonight, we're pleased the Student Support Services Division will be presenting the strategic plan update related to social and emotional learning. I have Dr. Tracy Strickland, our Student Support Director, with me, and Tracy Carney, our Social Emotional Learning Coordinator. They're going to present the update to you tonight.
So through social and emotional learning, we address students' learning as well, because we know that students, in order to be able to learn to their best potential, need to be able to be self-regulated. Okay, go ahead. As we develop the competencies, we wanted you to know that we follow the CASEL competencies. They are part of the handouts that you received today. Our task is to develop social and emotional learning competencies for all students to increase awareness and create a culture of mutual respect for their differences. Go ahead. So we've come a long way. We've come a really long way. Before now, several, and not very far in the past, we had 3 social workers and 3 mental health therapists for our entire county. For our 40,000 plus students, we had 3 and 3. We also did not have a social and emotional learning curriculum. We didn't have a bullying prevention program, and we were inconsistent as we tried to identify students' academic and emotional needs.
So our current state, we have now hired a student support services director, as well as a social emotional learning coordinator and an MTSS administrator. This past spring, we also completed an SEL inventory with all of the schools to find out what systems and programs were in place. Currently, we have Leader and Me in 8 schools. PBIS is being utilized in 26 schools, and we have 13 schools that are also using Safe and Civil Schools, which includes CHAMPS, DISC, and STOIC. And we're also working collaboratively with the Office of Accountability and Research and the School Counseling Department in order to make sure we're meeting the needs of all of our students socially and emotionally. So these are just some numbers about the Student Support Services Department. So the school social workers, there are 22 in total, and that includes the collaborative with DHS, and we have 26 behavioral health therapists, as well as 37 school resource officers with collaboration with the various police departments in the area. And there are 46 school nurses in the district with 2 leads, and we currently have 133 school counselors, including the 9 that we added this year to the high schools, as well as 27 school psychologists. I'm sorry. No, they are. That included the 9 additional.
Yep, those were the extra 5th at the high schools.
Mm-hmm.
And so where we want to go, we are working on identifying and implementing a selected screener for every one of our students across the county so that we can determine the needs across the county in order to then develop and select an SEL curriculum. We also want to implement youth mental health first aid for all of our employees, making that cluster by cluster. We continue our relationship with DHS and work on that continued good relationship as they meet the needs of our students. And then the transition from anti-bullying to bullying prevention, in our belief that anti-bullying is more of an after the fact. Bullying prevention is setting up a process to teach students how to be versus simply addressing them after they have fallen into disciplinary process. And then also our plan to market what we are doing in student support. And I hope that at this point you've noticed that we've launched that effort through Twitter and through Facebook.
And our handle is You Matter in UCPS.
We also, and I hope that you've noticed this too, in the bathrooms across the county, including these, we've put suicide intervention posters as we have implemented training with a lot of our key student support staff in schools to address students' needs when they are crying out for help. And then you'll see our performance indicators here that indicate the way that we're measuring and the targeted achievement. Any questions for us? Thank you.
The PowerPoint? Thank you. That would
Absolutely.
be great. There was some great stuff in there that I would like to.
And I just want the board to know and the public. So when we think about all of the work that we're doing across all 53 schools around social emotional learning, mental health safety, this is our team. Tracy Strickland, as you know, just came on board in this role. Tracy Carney came in the coordinator role for SEL. several months ago in the spring. Belle Walker is our lead social worker. She's part of this team. And so they are really the public facing for administration, working with the county and other partners on everything social and emotional learning. Today, they gave a great training to all of our principals and directors on suicide intervention protocols. And so we are really, as you all know, and have been extremely supportive of all of our efforts around safety, not just physical, but social and emotional and mental. And so I just want to say thank you to our team. They have really taken this and are running with it. And without them and the leadership, we would not be where we are today. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and I would have to say maybe in January or February, I would like to maybe have you back just to kind of give us a mid-year presentation, just to see what we.
Because some of our hires coming out of Union County aren't going to happen until January. Is that
That's right.
So
Yes,
that,
that's right.
Okay.
that would be great.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mhm. Okay, so
Union County agreed to additional. Sorry, Mr. Morial's asking about the hiring in January. The county agreed to add a certain amount of social workers and mental health therapists, but not until January. I think it's January. Sorry, I didn't mean to make you walk all the way away. Thank you. Thanks very much.
They're doing it in 2 waves where they'll hire mental health therapists at one point, and then in January, they'll hire the social workers. And so by that point, we will have met that fully staffed, and we should have about 30.
Okay, so how many, just so I can remember, I should know
Yep.
this, but how many did they agree to fund in January for
So
social
for
workers?
this school year,
Uh-huh.
they have agreed for 5 additional social workers and 10 mental health therapists.
10 mental health therapists.
They currently have 9 social workers and
Right.
5 mental health therapists.
Okay, awesome. But the mental health therapists, the 10 aren't till January as well, or are those now? Those
They're-
are now, and then we've already hired them.
They're working on those in shifts. Part of it will be this semester and part of it will be after January.
That's awesome. Last year, we were under the impression that they were going to be hired a little more quickly
Sooner.
before you guys were involved. And then we found out in February that we had just kind of started going with it in November and December. So I just wanted to make sure I had the timing of things right. Well, I'm thankful that all the positions that they've agreed to fund. So thanks.
and we have you in place as well.
Yes, exactly.
So it's good timing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, that brings us to the 2018-19 accountability update with Dr. Breedlove and Dr. Tyson.
Good evening. On behalf of our superintendent, Dr. Houlihan, it's a great honor to present to you our accountability report for the 18-19 school year. And with me tonight, I have actually 2 people. Dr. Jonathan Bowers, who is the Executive Director of Academics, as well as Dr. Jonathan Tyson, who is our Research and Accountability Director. My hat is off to them. Over the last couple of days, they have spent late nights putting together our report for the county. As we get the data, we have to turn that around fairly quickly in order to present here to you tonight. So thank you to them. Also, thanks to the other members of the Office of Academics for their work as well. So at this time, I will turn it over to Dr. Bowers for the intro. So thank you very much.
Good evening, members of the board and Dr. Houlihan and special guests in attendance tonight. It is certainly our pleasure to be able to stand before you to be able to share the instructional accountability updates from this last academic year. Much of the information you're going to see tonight is kind of just splintered into kind of 2 different accountability buckets, if you will, or kind of like reporting buckets. The first part is going to deal with our state accountability model and some of the results that you've seen released within the last 24 hours. And then the latter half is going to talk about some of the things that are unique to Union County, things that we're doing that is unprecedented, if you will, in the state of North Carolina from a college readiness standpoint. This right here slide kind of gives you an idea of kind of the overview as to what we hope to be able to share with you and some of the items that we're going to have as talking points tonight. You'll see we'll start with kind of the Federal Accountability Framework, which is referred to as ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds Act. We'll then move into some of those key indicators to which we use to be able to measure school performance and school growth and school achievement in the state of North Carolina. And then we'll kind of move into this year's results, if you will, that had just been released. And then we'll conclude with what will be college readiness measures. Just to give you a little bit of a background, federal framework is the Every Student Succeeds Act. North Carolina 2 years ago elected to take their school performance grade model and push it into the federal accountability model or federal reporting model. And we then use that as a means to be able to report out on school success, school growth, school metrics year after year. A couple of changes that this change, I guess, introduced for us is that you'll see is that we no longer have partial enrollment. That just simply means that basically students who are now in attendance 50% or more of the time will count in the accountability growth and measures. Used to be once upon a time, if you tested at a school, you went into that school's accountability. So that's been a little bit of a change. The one that's the most notable that I'll share with you has been the math double testing in 8th grade. You'll see from some of the information that you had that was presented to you and shared with you in advance of tonight's meeting that there have been kind of some fluctuation with some math in certain levels. We do, and Dr. Tyson will talk about this, expect much of that to normalize over the years because that's a direct result of the double testing in math, and there have been specific changes with that. And then lastly, we now measure subgroup performance as well as English learner progress. Two terms you'll hear kind of tossed about. We certainly don't want to inundate you with acronyms by any means because we want to kind of be careful we don't do the alphabet soup dance up here. But we do speak sometimes in terms of GLP and CCR. GLP is grade level proficiency. CCR is career and college readiness. The difference, GLP are scores of 3, 4s, and 5 on state administered assessments, and career and college readiness are scores of 4 and 5. For proficiency reporting, we refer specifically to GLP. Okay, so just want to kind of make that distinction. Many of you will ask, what are those indicators that go into the school performance grade model? We've kind of outlined those and mapped them here for you. For elementary and middle schools, essentially, they're all determined by state assessments, EOGs and EOCs, such as Math 1, and then you have an EL progress indicator that is included. High school is a little bit different. They have multiple indicators, some of which are test, some of which are not test. And Dr. Tyson will kind of give you some information as to kind of how those are determined and where we stand as far as this year's performance and previous year's performance. Bottom line, when you take it all together, there's a model of 80-20. 80% of school performance grades are determined by a school's achievement, and then 20% comes from a school's growth. The growth for elementary and middle schools comes from those assessments you saw outlined on the previous slide. Growth for high schools comes from Math 1 performance and English 2 EOC performance, and that's it. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Dr. Tyson, and he'll share with you the data from this last year's kind of performance. Yes, ma'am, that's correct. The Math 1, only if you took it at the high school, and then what will be moving forward, Math 3. Didn't factor into growth. You're correct about the proficiency standpoint, but growth, if it was taken in the middle school, it was just, there was no growth for high schools. The score was banked, but it didn't go into the growth composite. Yeah.
So good evening, and we're going to start off with what I have called the 2 G's, and that's grade and growth, and that's what everyone is interested in. What's the grades and what's the growth? That's the 2 statuses that we're looking at across the state of North Carolina, and specifically here within Union County Public Schools. So if you look at the bottom of this chart, you'll see 2018-19, we measured 50 schools with school performance grades. 17 of those scored an A or were rated an A. That is an all-time high. That is an all-time high. Those schools earning an A, I brought this with me quickly tonight so we can recognize those publicly. Antioch Elementary School, Kensington Elementary School, Marvin Elementary School, Newtown Elementary School, Rayview, Sandy Ridge, Unionville, Weddington Elementary School, Wesley Chapel Elementary School. Then we have Cuthbertson Middle and Marvin Ridge Middle, Weddington Middle, followed by Cata, Cuthbertson High School, Marvin Ridge High School, Union County Early College, and Weddington High School. Those fit into the 17. Those schools deserve some recognition for their hard work over the past year. Also, one other indicator that you should see is 45 of the 50 schools were rated at a C or above. 9 elementary schools earned the designation of an A, and we had 0 schools at an F. If you look at 5 there under the D column with the asterisk, you can see that we did have 5 schools rated at D. They were very close. 2 of those schools, East Elementary and Walter Bickett Elementary School, exceeded growth, so they will not be designated by the state of North Carolina as low performing. We will have 3 low performing schools rated by the state of North Carolina. That is the lowest number ever. So a lot to be very proud of here with school grades. Also, we had 10 schools that increased 1 letter grade. So they moved from 1 letter grade up to the next. Of those 10, Benton Heights Elementary School, which moved from a D to a C, they're a C for the first time ever. Quite an accomplishment. Henry Bridge Elementary School, Kensington Elementary School, Marvin Elementary School, Shiloh Elementary School, Union Elementary, Unionville Elementary, Wesley Chapel Elementary, Cuthbertson Middle, and Porter Ridge Middle all advanced 1 letter grade. So all of those schools deserve a great deal of recognition for that work.
Dr. Tyson, if I might interject very quickly, I do want to give a few more shout outs. So 3 years ago, we identified as a team 6 persistently low performing schools. This board has been extremely supportive of backing funding and strategies to go to those schools to help them get turned around. And if you didn't hear it quite correctly from Dr. Tyson, I think it's important to say the 4 elementary schools that were identified 3 years ago of persistently being an F or a D all 4 are off the low performing list. The 2 middle schools, Monroe Middle School and East Union Middle School, when you look at the cutoff scores of how you get from a D to a C, you have to earn a number of 55 on the school performance. Both of those schools were at a 54. They're 1 point away. And I think my message is clearly this effort is working. We have phenomenal teachers in these buildings. We have great leaders. It takes time. Turning a school around takes time. And I just want to thank this board and our county commissioners and our public for investing, because what we're doing in these 6 schools is absolutely historical. For Benton Heights to have a C for the first time ever, Monroe Middle School made, I think it was 12-point gains from the prior year. This doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen without the support and the team effort of our entire team. So I just wanted to kind of point those out. In addition to seeing 10 schools moving a letter grade and having the highest number of A's, B's, and C's collectively, 90% of our schools in this county are a C or higher. That is tremendous. And there is no other county in this state that compares to that. So I wanted to give a few shout outs on that end as well.
And I agree with all of that, but I have questions. Do you want them in when we're there? Or do you want to go to the end first, or how do you want to do it?
Let's go ahead.
Okay, so in that first chart we were on, school performance grades, you also gave us some pie charts that showed the grade distribution by grade level. So
Right.
Elementary, middle, and high.
Right.
Schools in elementary getting A and B, 73% got an A or B score. In high schools, it was 84% had A or B school performance grades. In middle school, it was only 45. And then the same thing kind of happens with the school growth status as well. The middle schools are lagging significantly behind the elementary and the high schools. Do you have any idea what's going on with that?
Well, so I would say initially it's very early for us to diagnose that. If you look, when we get into some of the later slides, you'll see some areas where middle schools did make some gains. However, there were some areas where middle schools were really flat. I do think that there are some areas for growth in all levels. And I think as we continue through this, but at this time, I don't have a pinpoint answer to say middle school needs to do X. I think we need to work on, of course, reading, math, and science across the board in all levels.
Okay.
And I'll share one thing, Ms. Hunter, you bring up a great question. One of the things, again, with the board, I would ask you to also keep in mind, middle schools, every student in the building participates in the accountability model.
Right.
That same can't be said true for elementaries and high schools. So that may or may not be a contributing factor. That is certainly worth noting. that all students are participating in reading, math, and then 8th graders with science as well. So it's a different structure, if you will.
And those numbers did go up a little bit this year over last year, the percentages that I'm talking about. And I attribute that to the Math 1 going back into the middle schools instead of being taken out.
Right, and we're going to talk about that, how that slide really
Okay.
helped the middle school here in a few minutes, but it
Okay.
also really hurt the high school. And
Okay,
we've got a
thank
slide.
you.
All right, yes, ma'am. All right, so as we get into the second G of growth, we did have 23 schools that exceeds, which is the second highest that we've ever had in Union County Public Schools under this current model. I'd like to recognize those schools publicly quickly as we move forward. Benton Heights exceeded Indian Trail, Stallings Elementary, Walter Bickett Elementary, Cuthbertson Middle School, Cata, Marvin Ridge High School, Piedmont High School, East Elementary School, Newtown Elementary School, Sun Valley Elementary School, Weddington Elementary School, Marvin Ridge Middle School, Cuthbertson High School, Monroe High School, Union County Early College, Fairview Elementary School, Sandy Ridge, Unionville Elementary School, Wesley Chapel Elementary School, Weddington Middle School, Forest Hills High School, and Parkwood High School. Those schools all exceeded growth, and that's the highest designation. 43 of the 51, so 84% of our schools either met or exceeds. One thing that you see, we had 8 schools that did not meet growth. However, you do notice that that is down from 15 from the previous year. So we've reduced the schools that did not meet from 15 to 8. So I would say that is something worth celebrating. As we move into the district snapshot, and this just gives you a breakdown. And of course, you heard Dr. Bowers earlier talk about college and career readiness, which is 4s and 5s as compared to grade level proficient. So grade level proficient, you can see, is up slightly. However, college and career readiness is down slightly, but the school performance grade takes into account the grade level proficiency. So we can see that as college and career readiness slightly declined, we did see grade level proficiency incline. If you look at the ACT and the work keys, you do see that we experienced slight declines there. And recognize here with the ACT, we're going to have an ACT slide later in this presentation, but these are students that score 17 or higher on the ACT in the 11th grade. All 11th graders take the ACT. The work keys is for a select group of kids that take certain career and technical education courses throughout their high school career. And you can see that slightly failed. But however, you can see that our math rigor is up and our cohort graduation rate at 93.0 is the second highest of all time. So 93.0 is the second highest of all time.
So with respect to ACT, year over year, it's starting going down. Any reason? Do we have any idea what's causing it to do that? And I don't know how it compares to the state either. I assume.
So we have a slide later that'll show a comparison to the state, and we're still outpacing the state. There have experienced slight declines, but we are outpacing the state as it comes to ACT.
I know that the SAT revamped their testing mechanism 2 years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. To the best of my knowledge, the ACT has not. So when you look at 2015-16, it's 77.1%, and then a decline and a decline and a decline. I think that's where we want to dig in and find out, because just in my 5 years on the board, we're putting more emphasis than ever on Saturday schools and everything, trying to help our kids prepare. And we've had a great partnership with Huntington. And so I guess as a parent and a board member, we're trying to figure out, how are we going down when we're putting so much time and energy?
Especially since we added the 8th grade PSAT, and we're doing this earlier now, 10th grade, 11th grade. It is a little bit concerning that it.
And I know you may not be able to answer the question tonight because we all just got, DPI's report. But, that's kind of a big question mark for me. I mean, because I know many of us here have made our kids get up on Saturday morning and go to that Huntington workshop and practice. I know Piedmont High School had, some Saturday programs. And so I am just kind of curious, why the ACT is continuing to go down for our school district.
And work keys went down in CCR. Each of them has come down every year.
So that would be something I would really want to look into, to try and figure out, what do we need to improve on?
So if we move to the next slide, we're going to break down the elementary grade level proficiency results. And if you can see here, elementary reading 3, 4, and 5, math 3, 4, and 5, and science are all up. So our
Awesome.
elementary schools, you recognize 9 of them were A schools this year. They had a remarkable year. And you can see reading 3, 4, 5, once again, math and science. What I would say that we need to pay close attention to is the 17-18 science as compared to the 17-18 to the 18-19. It's up 8.2 percentage points. That is remarkable. I think that is something worth noting.
That slide is amazing, for one thing. We had a lot of elementary schools have a lot of movement this year upward, which is awesome. Do we take stuff? I ask this question every year, but do we take best practices? So for Benton Heights, knocked it out of the park. Are we gleaning something from what they've done to do at the other schools who haven't seen that kind of increase?
Right. Well, one slide that we added was a late ad, and we're going to talk about the focused tutoring program here in just a minute. It's 2 slides out after we talk about the middle and the high school, and we're going to talk about those targeted tutoring practices, and you'll see the sustainable increases. One thing that I said this morning to the principals when we presented to the principals is if you look at these scores, you have to recognize that the science made a major impact on our elementary schools across the board.
All of them, yeah.
But
all
also,
of them went up. Most of them went up.
But
Yeah,
also on
it's
these
awesome.
targeted tutoring schools, you'll see significant increases there. And many of those are ones that either exceeded growth or came out of low performing.
So I will add just to the short response is yes. I saw Dr. Topper and Dr. McKinnon over there shaking their head. That, Dr. Bazin, Dr. Harris, and Laurel Healy, that is a primary function of their responsibilities is to get their schools together, share best practices. And I tell our principals all the time, when you have a good recipe, don't reinvent the wheel. Just steal it and apply it to your setting. And so some of what we're seeing across schools is part of their responsibility, and they do a really good job, is getting our school leaders together and their leadership teams and actually having collaborative discussions to share best practices. And that is a common school improvement effort that we make.
I think that we had 12 of our 30 elementary schools increased their school performance score by more than 5 points this year, with the highest being 11, which is just amazing. I mean, really good results. So it would be great if we could share with some of the others and see if we can make them work there as well.
Well, I think our Office of School Performance played a major role in that as well.
Dr. Tyson, you, I'm sure, haven't had a chance to compare this, but I would be very interested in knowing some of the growth results or what you can glean from the data on our Leader in Me elementary schools, as either before they started the program, growth during the program, or as compared to some of their other peers, to see if we can draw any substantial conclusions from an academic standpoint, the impacts of Leader in Me.
So I think Leader in Me, along with a number of other programs, I've tasked Dr. Bowers with being the lead on program evaluation, which we've talked about as a system we need to do. And I think Leader in Me and a lot of other programs in schools would tie into that request. So if you'll just make note to look at the academic performance as it relates to program implementation.
Okay.
So this slide contains middle and high school grade level proficiency. One thing that you'll see, and you asked questions about middle school earlier, middle school 6th grade ELA is really flat. I mean, it's 73.6% to 73.4%, so really flat. You do see incremental gains in 7th and 8th grades, though. And also, if you look at science, you still see that there are great increases in 8th grade science. So the increase there is 4.8%.
I guess that's what confuses me on the middle schools, is most of their things are up,
Right.
but their school achievement scores down. I mean, you look at this chart and you think there shouldn't be any issue there, but there is.
So I guess the complaint goes back to the formula? Or,
Quite possibly. I mean, it could come down to the cut scores that the state makes at each individual grade level. And as you advance in school, if those cut scores go up and you can't meet them, or
Well, that
your achievement may be improving, but you're not making as much either growth or achievement
Okay.
to get to that higher level of standard.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. Do they in math? So just one last one question in 8th grade. Are they taking an EOC and an EOG again, or is just the
ma'am.
EOC?
No, ma'am.
So the EOC is counting like the EOG would have for.
That's
8th grade.
correct. So what you see here is when you see 8th grade math, and that's at the bottom of the column there in the middle, you see that we increased over 20 points in the 8th grade math score. Okay. However, if you move to the left-hand side of the page in Math 1, you see our Math 1's dropped 14 percentage points. So what has happened is basically the kids that were taking Math 1 in the 8th grade are staying in the 8th grade math score and no longer transitioning over to count in the proficiency at the high school.
Okay.
If you look at high school scores across the board, high school Math 1s saw a decline for the most part.
Right.
So what will happen is those kids this current year sat in Math 2 in the 9th grade.
Correct.
So next year they'll take Math 3 in the 10th grade and they'll count in the proficiency for the high school. So they have to have a math proficiency score that counts at the high school.
So it'll be
However,
Math
if
3.
they take Math 1 in the middle school, it'll be Math 3 in high school. Does that make sense? So that's why you see the shift. Now this will right itself over time, but it is going to have to cycle out this year. And then hopefully this coming year, we'll see positive increases across the board with math in the high school because it'll be reported as Math 1 and Math 3.
In other words, with high school math, we view this as kind of a gap year. It's a year where a lot of our kids didn't get credit for the courses they were taking, particularly Math 3. What we think you'll see next year or this current year is those numbers flipping.
So wait, what do you mean they didn't get credit for Math 3?
You want to explain that?
So they got credit for the course. What he's saying is they didn't count in the proficiency score for the high school. So
no Math 3 counted in the.
No. The kids that took Math, okay, so the kids that took Math 1 and 2 in middle school. So if you had a kid that took Math 1 and 2, they were a freshman this year in the 9th grade. So as a 9th grader, they took Math 3. Well, then that counts in the proficiency. But most of the kids that take Math 1 in the 8th grade come over and take Math 2 in the 9th grade. So that means they don't count in the proficiency as a 9th grader, but they will count in the proficiency of the school as a 10th grader because they'll be in Math 3 as a 10th grader.
Okay.
And Math 2 does not contribute to your high school
That's right.
proficiency.
Math 2 does not
only
count.
Math 1
Well, it's
and
not
Math
an
3.
EOC.
That's right. It's a North Carolina
Yeah.
final exam.
It's not complicated at all. I
No,
mean, just kidding. I mean, let's make it hard on ourselves.
Well, and quite honestly, our principals even had a few questions about that, and they work with it every day. So it's understandable that, it's slightly confusing.
Well, in all fairness, too, we are a very high-performing school district. So we have very high-performing students that we're having to be patient with the numbers to get them accounted for so it can show up here. Because it's kind of staggered. Now we're waiting for them to take the next level math so we can actually capture, their performance to benefit the formula.
Capture their good score.
Exactly.
But, okay. But if you look at English 2 and biology in the high school, and then we'll move on, we can see that English 2 and biology both saw increases at the high school level. So these are the slides I was referring to earlier about the focus tutoring or the tutoring at the focus schools. And we'll spend a little bit of time talking about this, but this is 4th grade math at the focus schools and the impact tutoring has had on their scores. So in 16-17, this is prior to the focus tutoring. And then as you can see in 17-18, you see a significant increase, and that is with the tutoring program attached to these focus schools. And then at 18-19 in the 4th grade, you see that there were slight, maybe nominal declines, but they still maintain a high level, well above 50%. Okay, you see that in 4th grade math at our focus schools. If you move to the 7th grade math at the focus schools, you see a stair step effect. You see in year 1, we see over a 20-point increase, and then we see we're at 62% after this past year, which, and I made in my notes, is a 35.9% increase. So we see, and Dr. Houlihan asked us to add this in the presentation just to show the impact that focused tutoring is having on our schools where we're having 4th and 7th grade tutoring programs.
So last year when we shared this data, I kind of had this hunch about, a 1-year anomaly. Would we have, dramatic differences in proficiency because of this after 1 year? And what I think this shows us is we have back-to-back consecutive years that are proving that this in-school tutoring model is having a huge impact on proficiency and growth. What you also don't see, and we'll provide this at a later time, if you look at the cohort data, so 4th graders who received tutoring last year are actually more proficient as a 5th grader than they were prior. Same with 7th graders who received tutoring compared to their 8th grade year. So the big fundamental question for me is around scalability. If this is a model that is working, something I've tasked our team with is we have many other schools that could benefit from an in-school tutoring model. And we're trying to figure out how do you scale this up. The biggest issue besides funding is finding the people. We've had really good success recruiting folks for these positions. And I want to make it clear, this is not just those who are tutoring. It's the whole effort. It's the collaboration with the 4th and 7th grade teachers. It's curriculum design. It's training. It's a number of different factors, but we are very, very pleased with this effort in particular. And I thought the board should know what that data is looking like.
So off the top of my head, I can remember a couple of those schools. Do you mind refreshing everyone's memory? I remember East Union Middle was one, Forest Hills.
The 2 middle schools are East Union and Monroe Middle School. The 4 elementaries are the 4 who all exited low performing status are Marshville, Walter Bickett Elementary, Benton Heights, and East Elementary. Last year, we put in focused tutoring in high schools at Forest Hills and at Monroe. We did not see as big of a jump in math in those 2 schools as we did here, primarily because a lot of what you've heard about the declines in Math 1 overall. And we're still trying to figure out those numbers because it's not as easy as coming as the 4th and 7th. So we didn't see as big of an impact at those 2 high schools. We are seeing tremendous results in our elementary and middle. Mm-hmm. And it just makes me wonder, without this effort, where would we be? And so I think big kudos to our teachers, our principals, and our team for not just figuring out this model, but really implementing it with fidelity.
Just to take this chart a step deeper, to break it down by school, are you seeing this kind of growth across the board of all the schools? I just want to make sure there's not a particular school that's spiking the results, that it's a overall conclusion we can draw by across the board, all the schools that are involved in tutoring.
And that's a good question. It's something we can look into to break them down by school. Of course, Benton Heights had a phenomenal year this year, and I think we have to recognize that. And they moved, of course, a letter grade, but I do think that would warrant more research into that very question.
Could you provide that, these charts broken down on a per school basis?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I think the elementary, we did have one of those schools that had a little bit of regression, which was Marshville, and we're digging into that data. The other 3 maintained. Your middle schools had tremendous impact, I think primarily because they went back and revisited the model from the year prior and made some tweaks on how they're actually implementing. It's a little bit more different and much more fluid at the middle school level. And they made some of those adjustments on the fly, and they had tremendous results. But I would like to see the school by school grade level, and we can provide that to the board.
So again, what we're asking for is just broken down the 2 middle schools, East Union Middle and Monroe Middle. And as far as the 8th grade tutors, and then Marshville, Walter Bickett, Benton Heights, and East.
Yes.
Okay.
We will provide that.
Awesome.
Right, that was in the conclusion of the document as a recommendation for us for areas for improvement. Expand. Well, I would say the first thing that you do is you look at schools that are on the bubble of moving a letter grade, and that would be a targeted area. Like, you know, if you can move a school 1 or 2 points, and of course that moves them a letter grade, or they're right on the cusp of meeting or exceeding growth, I think that's something that we need to look into before the expansion is considered.
One concrete example of that would be Wingate Elementary School. They continue to hover on that DC. They're a Title I school. They're an EPIC school. It's really looking at their existing funding allotment to see if we can find additional existing dollars and repurpose those for the hiring of tutors. That would be an example. Now they've fallen into low performing. Would this make an effort? I believe it would. But I think on the larger scale for the board, it's something we're going to study this year for budget the following year. But we're looking at existing dollars now in some of these schools that really need some additional help.
What data do you use, or what testing results do you use to determine which students within that school get the tutoring
It's all
efforts
students.
across the board?
It's across the board, all 4th and all 7th.
All right, so this is the final slide that I have related to school performance and grades, and then we have a couple that we're going to run through briefly about college readiness that we have added. But this is a 7-year trend to ACT results. You guys had asked about the ACT earlier, and if you look at 2019, you do see on the far right-hand side where it is composite score, and that is the composite score that kids are earning. You see our average composite score is a 20.4. However, that is still 2.1 points above the state average. So if you see that we have been steady with composite scores in our average since 2013, but so has the state. So we're still outpacing the state as far as composite scores, but we have fluctuated and we're hovering right around a composite score of 20. This is significant because it is a comparison of all 11th graders in the state of North Carolina. All 11th graders in the state of North Carolina take the ACT.
Can I'd like to make one comment
Yes, ma'am.
about this. Okay, so it's absolutely wonderful news that our 11th graders are well above the state average. But when you look at the college readiness as determined by the ACT, then we're below. So I think as far as like our next goals or where we want to be is not to compare ourselves to the state, because the state should not be what we're looking at, in my personal opinion, because the ACT says that English needs to be at an 18. We meet that. The ACT says we should be at a 22 for math, and we're at a 20.6. So we've got a little room for improvement there. 22 for reading, we're almost there with a 21.2. And then science 23, where we saw in earlier slides, science was actually helping our schools, but when it comes time for the ACT in 11th grade, for some odd reason, they're saying we should be at a 23, but we're at a 20.4.
Right.
So I would just encourage our team that comparing ourselves to the state is not what we want. We want our goal to be, what the ACT defines as college ready.
All right, so as I stated in the previous slide, that was the last slide that has data that plays into the school performance grade. We're going to look at some college readiness, and there's no school performance grade associated with this. You probably have seen this chart, but it is important. This is AP exams that have been taken in Union County Public Schools. As you see, we administered 5,309 AP exams this year in Union County Public Schools. What you also see is 3,508 students actually passed or earned a level 3 or higher. And level 3 or higher is significant because North Carolina's colleges and universities will accept that course for credit if the students earn a 3 on the exam. So that is a big deal. That's a big deal for those kids. Also, it's important for you to understand that for the first time in Union County Public Schools, first time ever, we've had over 3,000 test takers in the AP program. This is something that has really grown over the past few years. Also, we administer the PSAT that was referenced earlier in the presentation today. And if you look at the screen, you see we have some red circles that were circled. And as I was presenting this earlier this week to the cabinet, they asked that we highlight the fact that we talk about state comparisons here, but there's no reason for us to talk about state comparisons because the comment was made, we are the state. I mean, we're so far out ahead of everyone else in the state offering this college readiness exam to middle schoolers. We're giving them access earlier and earlier. You do see our average score. We can relate it to the national average, and that's the best comparison that we can make here. So in the fall of 18, we're almost 100 points above the national average, and the same is true for the benchmarks. If you see a 10th grade PSAT, we're going to highlight this briefly, and you can see that 969 is our average score in 18, which is well above the national average, and it's also above the state average. So we're outpacing them, and obviously we meet every benchmark across the board and exceed the state and the national average here. If you look at the 11th grade SAT, and of course we do not get accountability points for this. However, I will say as a former high school principal, it provides access for kids that may not otherwise have the opportunity to sit and take an SAT, okay, and providing this. So we truly are the state here if you see our red circles. I mean, we're one of the only school systems doing this in the state of North Carolina. It's something to be very proud of. And our students should be very thankful for this as well. And our families should be very thankful for this as well. But if you look at the average score in Union County Public Schools, it's 1049, which I would say is remarkable with every student in the 11th grade taking the SAT on that day. I mean, think about how powerful that is. And 970 is the national average, well above that, and also above the state average as well. So in conclusion, we've got a few points that I'm going to let Dr. Houlihan go over and review. But I do appreciate you listening and taking time to go through this data with us this evening.
So I'm not gonna read through all of this. I think what I really wanted to say is, again, a big kudos and congratulations to our schools, our teachers, our kids who have worked very hard. Philosophically, do I agree with the whole A to F accountability system? I'm not going to comment on that. You can probably figure that out. But what I will say is it is what it is. That's how we are measured. That's how we're held accountable. And the improvements that we have made since last year and really the last 3 years that I've been here, I cannot be more proud. A lot of our schools have had historic gains from last year. And as I told our principals this morning, we're going to celebrate. We're going to have a party at each school. But we're going to do that shortly and quickly because we're in another school year. And part of our challenge now, and you've heard me say, when you're a high-performing system, it is very easy to regress. That is not our goal. We have got to continue to figure out how do we get even better. Our goal is to make sure that we have no schools rated D or F or low performing. That has been a long-time goal of mine, personally and professionally, that we share with the board. We're very, very close. And I think for a lot of our schools that have had these perceptions and labels of being poor schools and low performing, we are literally changing the narrative in those schools. And I couldn't be more proud of our principals, of our teachers. Do we have areas to improve upon? Next slide. Yes. One of the things that I will say that I really want to focus a little bit harder on is our efforts on literacy. We have done a lot of work with literacy in elementary and middle school. 3rd grade reading and 6th grade reading is still flat. We have got to figure out what we need to do differently, particularly in those 2 grade levels. 4th and 5th, 7th and 8th, we're actually seeing all-time highs. But our 3rd and 6th grade is going to be a focus for us this current year. And the board knows with 3rd grade, particularly kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade, what is happening in those grade levels that we need to ramp up and study. Exactly. So again, have we had a great year from last year? Absolutely. We're very, very proud, but we also recognize that there are always going to be more work to do and some new things to look at. So So board members, if you have any comments or questions for our team, thank you to the two of you for your leadership in this effort and the report. And again, we're very, very proud as superintendent and as a parent of the successes of our schools.
I just have one quick question. Do we verify the state's numbers and double check?
Say that again.
Do we verify the state's numbers and to make sure they're correct and double check them? Or is there a way to do that?
Are you referring?
Like the school performance grades or the?
These were pulled straight off DPI. I
He's
think.
saying it's DPI, right?
I know, I'm saying, are they right always?
Oh.
Do we double check and verify?
Yes, sir. That's a great question. So what we have at the end of each year when the accountability closeout takes place is that there are internal processes that we actually go through to verify that the results we've submitted are indeed those which are measuring our students. So that's kind of done through the months of June, July, and even early August this year because math was so late coming back. So it's ongoing, and we do have a means by which we actually do that. So multiple data files over multiple weeks. I won't bore you with details or anything, but yes, sir, that which you see are those which we've reported.
But we also had the DPI also gives every school a window to file an appeal if they believe that there is a grade level or some issue that needs to be relooked at. And I'm assuming that window has closed.
No, sir.
No, it has
Actually, yes, sir. There's a data correction window that's in the fall. So after the release of the results, if we see something that might be quite amiss, and it actually, to Dr. Houlihan's point, it gives us a chance to be able to resubmit and then be able to articulate the reason why. Nothing we have seen it leads us to believe that there's anything erroneous at this point. But again, there's another review that we'll still go through up until what'll be the end of September.
What a great, fun presentation to play with all the numbers and see how wonderful our schools really have improved, especially the targeted schools that, they've come in with, plans each fall and to kind of see the fruits of their labor starting to come through is very exciting. So, and I would just say, Dr. Topper and Dr. McKinnon, please share with our elementary schools how extremely proud this board is of how wonderful those 30 schools are doing. So please pass that along on our behalf. Yeah. So, and we're cheering for them. Another good school year. So that brings us, board, to policies for review.
Good evening, members of the board. We have 3 policies and 1 set of administrative guidelines for your review tonight. And if you have any questions on any of them, I'm available to answer those as best I can. Thank you all very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any closed session decisions? I don't believe we had any tonight. And then board comments. Okay, so Dr. Houlihan is beginning his 4th year with Union County Public Schools. So I'm going to embarrass him a little bit because in private, I said, well, congratulations, this is your senior year. So his 4th year with Union County Public Schools, and we could not be happier with the enthusiasm and the passion that you bring for literacy and our schools. We're just super excited about your senior year with Union County Public Schools.
Thank you. I promise the board and everyone else I will not get senioritis at any point in time.
And we had that conversation too.
All day, every day. We're in it doing it, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, very exciting. So, and it's always so much fun to see you out in our schools, all over the county, visiting with our principals and walking the halls and meeting little students that, aspire to be unicorns. Very, very exciting to see you, so directly involved with our schools and our administrators and our students. So keep up the great work. And to our team, I just could not be more pleased with the great results that we're getting back, and the tutoring obviously is working. So we need to probably take into consideration any schools that need to benefit from that so that they can improve as well. Are there any other board members that would like to make a comment? Okay, hearing none. Are there any announcements?
The Strategic Planning, Information Technology and Transportation Committee will meet September 25th at 7:30 here at the PDC.
I'll let you speak.
Policy meets that same day at 9.
Okay. And just be prepared for any other committee meetings that will be scheduled. Board members, you'll get the dates and times in your emails from those chairs. Okay, or if there are no other announcements, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you, everyone. Good night.